The impossible defense. The emergency klaxons shattered the peaceful morning on Vega Prime, the outermost human colony established just 15 years ago. Commander Elara Reeves sprinted through the central command hub, her boots echoing against metal floors as technicians scrambled to their stations. Outside, through the massive viewport, the golden-orange atmosphere of their adopted world shimmered against the backdrop of space, a view now marred by the approaching shadows of unknown vessels. "Report," Elara demanded, sliding into the command chair as holographic displays burst to life around her. Lieutenant Davi Okafor, her sensor officer, worked frantically at his console. 53 ships, Commander. Unknown configuration. They entered the system 30 minutes ago and are moving in formation toward Vega Prime. No response to standard hailing protocols. Elara studied the tactical display, her expression hardening. Vega Prime had been established as a research colony. Their defenses consisted of 3 outdated orbital platforms and a handful of atmospheric fighters. Nothing that could stand against a fleet of this size. "Send emergency broadcasts to Earth and the inner colonies," she ordered, "and sound the shelter protocols for all civilians." "Commander," Communications Officer Lin Wei interrupted, "we're receiving a transmission from the lead vessel." The main screen flickered to life, revealing a being unlike any Elara had seen before. Tall and imposing, with iridescent scales covering multilayered exoskeletal plates. 4 eyes, golden and multifaceted, studied the humans with cold calculation. "I am Supreme Commander Tazverik of the Kedari Dominion," the being announced, its voice translated through the ship's systems with a metallic edge. "Your species has expanded beyond its authorized boundaries. This world lies within territories designated for eventual Kedari colonization. You will surrender all facilities and evacuate immediately. Resistance will result in your extinction." Elara stood, her spine straight as steel. "This is Commander Elara Reeves of the United Earth Colonial Authority. Vega Prime was uninhabited when we arrived and is registered with the Interstellar Colonization Initiative. We have followed all protocols for establishing this settlement." The alien commander's upper eyes narrowed. "Your initiative holds no authority here. You have 6 hours to begin evacuation procedures. After that time, we will commence cleansing operations." The transmission cut, leaving the command center in stunned silence. "Orders, Commander." Colonel Maya Santos, head of the colony's meager defense force, asked. Ilara's mind raced through possibilities. Even if Earth dispatched their fastest ships now, help wouldn't arrive for at least 2 weeks. The colony housed over 15,000 civilians, scientists, engineers, farmers, teachers, children. Evacuation was impossible with their limited shuttles. "Colonel, ready all defensive systems." Lieutenant Okafor, full sensor sweep of those ships. "I want to know their capabilities, vulnerabilities, anything that might help us." "Dr. Chen," she said, turning to the colony's chief scientist who had rushed to the command center, "I need options." Dr. Alexis Chen pushed her glasses up, already lost in thought. "Their ships must have some form of propulsion system sensitive to electromagnetic fields. If we could generate a large enough EM pulse, our generators couldn't produce anything powerful enough to affect ships that size," Colonel Santos objected. "Maybe not conventionally," Elara said slowly, an idea forming. "But what about the Helios Array?" Dr. Chen's eyes widened. "The Solar Research Station. It's designed to study Vega's unusual magnetic field fluctuations, not as a weapon. Can it be converted?" Elara pressed. "Theoretically, yes," Chen replied hesitantly. "The superconducting coils could be reconfigured to channel and amplify the planet's natural magnetic field, but the power requirements would be enormous, and we'd need to rewrite the entire operating system." Elara nodded decisively. "Then that's what we'll do." Colonel Santos, buy us time. "Dr. Chen, assemble your best people. We have 6 hours to turn a research array into our salvation." 3 hours later, Elara stood in the underground research facility, where Dr. Chen and a team of engineers worked feverishly to reconfigure the Helios array's systems. Massive supercomputers hummed as programmers rewrote millions of lines of code. Technicians rerouted power conduits, connecting the colony's 3 fusion reactors directly to the array's control systems. "We're routing all non-essential power to the array," Dr. Chen explained, not looking up from her calculations. "Even life support in uninhabited sections. It still won't be enough for a sustained pulse, but we might get 1 shot, maybe 2 if we're lucky." "Will it work?" Ilara asked simply. Chen finally looked up, exhaustion evident in her eyes. "The magnetic properties of Vega Prime are unique. That's why we built the research station here. If we can synchronize the pulse with the planet's natural field fluctuations, we might create a cascade effect powerful enough to disable their ships temporarily. And if we can't, then we'll have diverted all our resources to a failed experiment," Chen said grimly, "and we'll have nothing left to fight with." A communication alert chimed on Ilara's wrist device. "Commander," Colonel Santos' voice came through. "The Ket'Ari are moving. They've entered high orbit and are deploying smaller craft. I think they're done waiting." Ilara's jaw clenched. "Understood. Maintain defensive positions. I'm on my way." Before she could leave, Chen caught her arm. "Commander, we need more time. At least 2 more hours." "I'll do what I can," Ilara promised, though they both knew the colony's defenses wouldn't last that long against a superior force. The command center had transformed into a war room. Tactical displays showed the Ket'Ari ships forming a blockade pattern around the planet, while smaller vessels descended through the atmosphere. "They're targeting our orbital platforms first," Colonel Santos reported as Ilara entered. "Platform 3 is already gone. 1 and 2 are returning fire, but their shields can't hold much longer." "What about civilian shelters?" "All secured. But if they start bombardment from orbit," Ilara nodded grimly. "The underground shelters weren't designed to withstand orbital strikes." "Open a channel to their commander," she ordered. Supreme Commander Tazverik appeared on screen again, seeming almost amused. "Your time has not yet expired, human. Have you come to surrender?" "I've come to negotiate," Ilara replied steadily. "Your intelligence about this planet is flawed. Vega Prime experiences unique magnetic phenomena that make it dangerous for prolonged occupation. That's why we established a research colony rather than a full settlement." The alien commander's head tilted slightly. "Explain." "The planet generates unpredictable electromagnetic surges. We've lost ships and equipment to them. We're studying how to predict and neutralize these effects." The lie came smoothly, built around enough truth to be convincing. "Your ships may be at risk if you remain in close orbit." For a moment, Tazverik seemed to consider her words. Then, a transparent attempt to delay the inevitable. "If such phenomena existed, our sensors would have detected them." "Not necessarily," Ilara countered. "The fluctuations occur deep within the planet's core. Our research station has been monitoring them for years with specialized equipment. I can transmit our data if you wish to verify." "Transmit your data," the Ket'Ari commander said after a pause. "We will analyze it. But know this. If this is deception, we will show no mercy." The transmission ended, and Ilara turned to her communications officer. "Send them our actual magnetic field research data, the raw, unfiltered readings. Bury them in so much scientific information they'll need time to process it all." "Buying time, Commander?" Colonel Santos asked quietly. "Every minute counts now," Ilara replied, watching as the remaining orbital platforms continued their losing battle. "How long until our fighters need to engage?" 20 minutes at current descent rates." Ilara took a deep breath. "Then we have 20 minutes to prepare our people for what's coming." The first attack came precisely when predicted. Ket'Ari assault crafts swept through the upper atmosphere, their weapons lancing through the colony's atmospheric fighters with brutal efficiency. The humans fought valiantly, using their knowledge of the planet's wind patterns and atmospheric conditions to execute maneuvers that occasionally caught the alien craft by surprise. But it wasn't enough. One by one, the colonial fighters fell. Ground-based defense systems activated, filling the sky with counterfire. But the Ket'eri ships were too fast, too well-armored. In the command center, Ilara watched grimly as the first alien vessels broke through to the colony's perimeter. Status on the Helios array. Dr. Chen reports 87% completion. Lieutenant Okafor replied, "They're working as fast as they can." Outside, the first explosions rocked the colony's outer structures. Damage reports flooded in as defensive barriers failed under concentrated fire. "They're landing troops," Colonel Santos reported, pointing to thermal readings on the eastern perimeter. "Light infantry by the looks of it. Testing our ground defenses before committing their main force." Ilara made a quick decision. Redirect teams from the western quadrant to reinforce the east, and get me a direct line to Dr. Chen. The scientist's harried face appeared on a side screen. Behind her, engineers worked frantically at control stations. "Commander, we're close, but the targeting systems are fighting us. We designed this array to be incapable of weaponization as a safety measure." "Override it," Ilara ordered. "We're trying." Chen wiped sweat from her forehead. "The system is rejecting commands that could potentially cause harm. We're having to trick it into thinking this is a controlled experiment." Another explosion, closer this time, shook the command center. Power fluctuated momentarily before backup systems engage. "They've hit Power Relay Station 4, someone reported. "Rerouting critical systems." Ilara leaned closer to the screen. "Dr. Chen, whatever you have to do it now. We're out of time." As if to emphasize her point, the tactical display updated to show additional Ket'eri ships descending, these much larger than the initial assault craft. Heavy combat carriers, based on their configuration. "Commander," Colonel Santos said urgently, "those new ships, they're carrying enough firepower to level the entire colony." Ilara straightened her shoulders. "All personnel to fallback positions. Activate emergency shelter protocols and prepare for." "We've got it," Dr. Chen suddenly shouted, her face lighting up with desperate triumph. "System is accepting the commands. Helios array powering up to full capacity. Initiating synchronization with planetary magnetic field." Through the command center viewport, Ilara could see energy crackling around the massive array stationed 2 kilometers from the main colony. The giant superconductive rings began to glow with blue-white light as they pulled power from every available source in the colony. "Synchronization at 60%, Chen reported, eyes fixed on readings only she could see. 70, 80. On the tactical display, the Ket'eri ships continued their inexorable approach. The first ground troops had engaged the colony's defenders, and the sounds of combat echoed through the command center's communication channels. 90%, Chen called out. "Commander, when I give the word, you need to order all our people to shut down any electronic equipment they're carrying. The pulse will fry anything that's active." Ilara nodded and opened a colony-wide channel. "Attention all personnel. Prepare for electromagnetic pulse. Shut down all non-essential electronics on my mark." 95%, Chen counted. 98, 99. The Ket'eri heavy carriers entered the lower atmosphere, weapon systems visibly charging as they prepared to rain destruction upon the human settlement. "Now," Chen shouted. "All units, shut down electronics." Ilara commanded, reaching for the manual override that would protect the command center's critical systems. Outside, the Helios array flared with blinding intensity. A visible wave of energy erupted from the massive rings, expanding outward in a perfect sphere that encompassed the colony and the attacking forces. For a heartbeat, everything electronic in the command center died despite their protections. When emergency systems flickered back to life seconds later, Ilara looked first to the tactical display, holding her breath. The Ket'eri ships hung motionless in the sky, their gleaming hulls now dark and lifeless. One by one, they began to fall, unable to maintain flight without functioning systems. It worked, Colonel Santos whispered in disbelief. It actually worked. But Ilara's moment of triumph was short-lived as she noticed something else. A massive Ket-Eri command ship descending from high orbit, apparently unaffected by the pulse. "Dr. Chin," she called urgently, "can we fire again?" The scientist's face was grim. "The array's primary systems are fried." It was a one-shot weapon, just as we feared. Ilara watched as the enormous alien vessel approached, its weapons certainly powerful enough to obliterate what remained of their defenses. She had gambled everything on Project Sunforge, and while it had worked better than they could have hoped, it hadn't been enough. "All units, prepare for," she began, but stopped as the massive ship halted its descent, hovering ominously above the colony. A communication request flashed on the main screen. With nothing left to lose, Ilara accepted it. The face that appeared wasn't the Ket-Eri commander, but something else entirely, a being with crystalline features that seemed to shift and refract light, giving the impression of constant movement. "Commander Ilara Reeves," the being said, its voice melodious and strangely calming. "I am Observer Xilatrix of the Galactic Council Evaluation Division. I believe we have much to discuss about humanity's future among the stars." Turning the tide, Ilara stared at the crystalline being on the screen, momentarily speechless. Around her, the command center had fallen silent, the only sounds the beeping of emergency systems and distant explosions as disabled Ket-Eri ships crashed beyond the colony's borders. "Evaluation Division," she finally managed. "You orchestrated this attack." The crystalline entity, Observer Xilatrix, inclined what appeared to be its head. "Not orchestrated. Observed. The Ket-Eri fleet was real, as was their intent to claim this world. We merely allowed the situation to develop." Anger flashed through Ilara. "People have died. My people. Indeed. And we regret every loss." The being's voice remained calm, almost serene. But the Galactic Council required proof of humanity's capabilities before intervention could be justified. Colonel Santos stepped forward, her face flushed with rage. "Proof. You needed proof that we deserve to live." "Not to live," Xilatrix corrected. "To join. The galaxy is vast and filled with dangers far greater than the Ket-Eri. New species must demonstrate potential before being granted protection and membership." Ilara's mind raced. This was a test. The first of several, the Observer confirmed, though your solution to this challenge was unexpected. "In 10,000 years of evaluation protocols, we have never witnessed a species convert a research installation into a planetary defense system within hours of first contact." Despite everything, Ilara felt a surge of pride. Humans are adaptable. "So we observe." The crystalline being seemed to shimmer with interest. "The Council will be most intrigued by your species' capacity for rapid innovation under extreme pressure, but your trial is not yet complete." As if on cue, the tactical display updated, showing the disabled Ket-Eri ships beginning to flicker with renewed energy. Systems reactivating, engines powering up. "The electromagnetic effects are temporary," Xilatrix explained. "The Ket-Eri will resume their attack shortly, though with diminished capabilities. Their pride demands it, and you'll just watch." Ilara demanded. "We will observe," the being corrected again. "How you respond to this second challenge will further inform the Council's evaluation." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the humans staring at each other in disbelief. "They're using us as lab rats," Colonel Santos spat. Ilara shook her head, already focusing on the tactical display. "No, they're testing us, and I intend to pass their test." She turned to Lieutenant Okafor. "Full status report on the Ket-Eri fleet." "Their systems are coming back online gradually," he reported. "Smaller vessels first. Estimated 20 minutes before they're combat capable again. And the heavy carriers. Longer, maybe an hour. Their systems are more complex." Ilara nodded. "That gives us time." "Dr. Chen," she called over the comm, "report to command immediately." and bring anyone who can help us repurpose more of our technology." 17 minutes later, the command center had transformed again. Scientists and engineers crowded around makeshift workstations, reprogramming equipment never designed for combat. Dr. Chen stood beside Ilara, reviewing their hastily assembled plans. The colony's atmospheric processors can be reconfigured to generate a localized ionic storm, Chen explained, pointing to environmental systems diagrams. It won't damage their ships permanently, but it will disrupt their targeting systems and the mining lasers. We've mounted 3 on mobile platforms. They're not weapons grade, but they can penetrate Kedari hull plating if focused on the same point. Ilara studied the tactical map. "Position them here, here, and here." She indicated key defensive points. "And what about the communications array?" "Reprogrammed to broadcast on Kedari command frequencies. We can't control their ships, but we can flood their communications with noise." A warning chime sounded from the tactical station. "First wave of Kedari fighters reactivating," Okafor announced. "They're regrouping for another attack run." "Deploy countermeasures," Ilara ordered. "Initiate atmospheric disruption." Outside, the massive environmental control towers that regulated Vega Prime's atmosphere for human habitation hummed with power as they were forced into overdrive. The golden-orange sky darkened as ionized particles gathered in thick, churning clouds directly above the colony. The Kedari fighters approached, more cautious now after experiencing the humans' unexpected defense. As they entered the artificially generated storm, lightning-like discharges arced between the alien vessels. Several veered off course, their navigation systems confused by the electrical interference. "It's working," Santos reported, a grim smile on her face. "They can't get a clean approach through the ionic field." But the victory was short-lived. The remaining fighters adjusted their approach, climbing higher to bypass the worst of the storm before diving steeply toward the colony. "They're adapting," Ilara observed. "Activate the mining lasers." 3 industrial cutting lasers, originally designed to carve through mineral deposits, fired in synchronized bursts as the Kedari ships descended. The beams converged on the lead fighter, burning through its armor in seconds. The ship exploded in a brilliant flash, debris raining down harmlessly outside the colony's perimeter. "Direct hit." Someone cheered, but Ilara remained focused. "Redirect fire on the next formation, and prepare for." The command center shook violently as an explosion tore through the northern quadrant of the colony. Emergency warnings blared as damage reports flooded in. "What happened?" Ilara demanded. "Ground forces," Santos replied grimly. "They never retreated after the pulse. They were waiting for their ships to recover." A new transmission cut through their communications, and Supreme Commander Tazverek's face appeared once more on screen. The Kedari leader looked in rage, all 4 eyes narrowed to slits. "Your deception has cost me ships and warriors." "Human," the alien hissed. "For this, your colony will not merely be cleansed, it will be erased from existence." "Your attack was unprovoked," Ilara countered. "We defended ourselves using the resources available to us." "Using weapons disguised as research equipment," Tazverek accused. "The Kedari Dominion has encountered your kind before, always hiding your true capabilities, always claiming peaceful intentions while preparing for war." This caught Ilara by surprise. "We've never encountered your species before today." The alien commander made a sound that might have been laughter. "Not my species specifically, but the Galactic Council that now watches us both. They set these tests for all emerging races. Most fail and are subjugated. Some pass and become servants. None have ever turned scientific equipment into weapons of war within hours. We did what was necessary to survive," Ilara stated simply. Tazverek studied her for a long moment. "Yes, as did my ancestors when faced with the Council's tests. Yet we were deemed too aggressive, too warlike, useful only as instruments of the Council's will." The commander leaned closer to the screen. "Your innovative defense has earned my respect. Commander Reeves. But my orders remain. Your colony must fall. The transmission ended, leaving Ilara with a troubling new perspective on their situation. The Kedari weren't just random aggressors. They were tools of the Council, perhaps unwilling ones. Commander, Dr. Chen interrupted her thoughts. The heavy carriers are powering up their main weapons. Our improvised defenses won't stop that level of firepower. Ilara made a swift decision. Open a direct channel to the observer's ship. After a moment's delay, Silatrix appeared on screen again. Commander Reeves, your adaptation continues to impress. Few species think to communicate directly with their evaluators during trials. This isn't just a trial anymore, Ilara said firmly. The Kedari commander revealed your council's methods. You pit species against each other, forcing them to fight for survival, then judge them based on how they perform. The crystalline being's surface rippled in what might have been surprise. The Kedari shared this information. Interesting. They were specifically instructed not to reveal the nature of the evaluation. Maybe they're tired of being your enforcers, Ilara suggested. Commander Tazveric implied his species was judged too aggressive and now serves as your military arm. A simplified perspective, but not entirely inaccurate, Silatrix admitted. The Galactic Council consists of many species, each contributing according to their evaluated strengths. The Kedari demonstrated exceptional military prowess, but insufficient restraint or innovation. They serve as defenders, and yes, occasionally as instruments of evaluation. Another explosion rocked the colony as Kedari ground forces pushed closer to the central hub. And what strength are you testing humans for? Ilara demanded. What role have you decided we should play in your council? That determination has not yet been made, the observer replied. Though your demonstration of adaptability and innovation is noteworthy, few species have ever. Save it, Ilara interrupted. People are dying while you conduct your evaluation. If you want to see human innovation, then help us stop this attack, and we'll show you what humanity is truly capable of when we're not fighting for survival. The crystalline being seemed to consider this proposal. Intervention at this stage would be unprecedented. So it is converting a research array into a planetary defense system in 6 hours, Ilara countered. You said so yourself. After a long moment, Silatrix responded. I cannot stop the evaluation, but I can modify its parameters. Continue to demonstrate your species' capabilities, Commander Reeves. The Council watches with great interest. The screen went dark again, leaving Ilara frustrated but determined. Whatever game the Council was playing, humanity would not be sacrificed as pawns. Status report, she demanded. Heavy carriers will be in firing position in 5 minutes, Okafor replied. Ground forces have breached the secondary perimeter. Our defensive lines are falling back to protect the civilian shelters. Dr. Chen stepped forward. Commander, I have one more idea. It's risky, but it might work. Ilara gestured for her to continue. The Helios array is damaged, but its communication systems are intact, Chen explained quickly. We designed it to transmit research data across vast distances by creating a focused subspace corridor. If we can reconfigure it to target the Kedari command frequency, we could disrupt their entire communication network, Ilara finished, seeing the possibility. Without coordination, their ground and air forces would be operating independently. Exactly, Chen nodded. And there's more. The Kedari ships use quantum-linked communication systems. I recognize the signature. If we can access their network, we might be able to transmit a cascading override signal. Could we take control of their ships? Colonel Santos asked. Chen shook her head. No, but we could potentially force a temporary system shutdown, kind of like a remote emergency stop. Do it, Ilara ordered. Lieutenant Okafor, coordinate with the ground teams. Hold the line for just a few more minutes. 3 minutes later, Dr. Chen's team had reprogrammed the damaged Helios array's communication systems. The remaining power in the colony was diverted to fuel one massive transmission burst. "Ready on your order, Commander," Chen reported from the array control station. On the tactical display, the Ket-Ari heavy carriers had moved into position, their main weapons glowing with building energy. Ground forces continued to push toward the central colony hub, though they were meeting fierce resistance from the defenders. "Now, Dr. Chen, execute." The Helios array hummed to life once more, though instead of generating an electromagnetic pulse, it now focused its energy into a tightly beamed transmission aimed directly at the Ket-Ari command frequencies. For several seconds, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, the Ket-Ari ships began to falter. The ominous glow of their weapons faded. On the ground, the advancing alien troops suddenly stopped, their coordinated assault dissolving into disorganized individual actions. "It's working," Santos breathed. "Their whole command structure is collapsing." "Not for long," Chen cautioned. "They'll purge the disruption and reestablish control in minutes." Ilara opened a direct channel to all colony defenders. "All units, this is Commander Reeves. The enemy is temporarily disorganized. Press the advantage now." Throughout the colony, human defenders launched coordinated counterattacks against the suddenly vulnerable Ket-Ari forces. Mining equipment, construction vehicles, and improvised weapons were brought to bear alongside the colony's limited military hardware. In orbit, the disabled Ket-Ari fleet hung motionless, their systems temporarily locked in safety protocols triggered by the disruption signal. "Incoming transmission," Okafor announced. "It's the Ket-Ari commander again." Tazverek appeared on screen, but this time the alien's demeanor had changed. Where before there had been contempt and rage, now there was something that might almost be respect. "Enough, Commander Reeves," the Ket-Ari leader said. "You have proven your point, to me, and to our observers." A second screen activated, showing Siletrix once more. "Indeed, the crystalline being confirmed. The evaluation has yielded sufficient data for the Council's determination." "And what determination is that?" Ilara asked warily. "In 10,000 years of conducting species evaluations, we have never encountered a non-militarized colony that could repel a Ket-Ari assault force," Siletrix explained. "Your methods were unorthodox, innovative, and surprisingly effective." "We did what we had to do to survive," Ilara repeated her earlier statement. "Precisely," the observer agreed. "And therein lies humanity's unique value to the Galactic Council. You solve problems in ways other species do not anticipate. You convert research equipment into defensive systems. You establish communication with evaluators during trials. You exploit quantum vulnerabilities that even the Ket-Ari were unaware existed in their own systems." Tazverek grunted what might have been agreement. "Your species lacks the Ket-Ari's natural strength and aggression, yet you have achieved what no other evaluated species has managed. You have effectively fought us to a standstill using only the tools at hand." "The Council has reached a unanimous decision," Siletrix announced. "Humanity will be granted provisional membership status, with a specialized role as innovators and problem solvers." Ilara exchanged glances with her officers. "And the attack is hereby concluded," the observer confirmed. "The Ket-Ari forces will withdraw immediately. Reparations for damages and casualties will be provided according to Council protocols." "Just like that?" Colonel Santos asked incredulously. "After everything that's happened?" "The evaluation was necessary, Colonel," Siletrix explained. "The galaxy is filled with threats far greater than the Ket-Ari. Species that cannot defend themselves or contribute meaningfully to the collective security of Council space cannot be granted membership or protection." Ilara studied both alien leaders carefully. "And our specialized role, what exactly does that entail?" "The Council faces many challenges that conventional approaches have failed to resolve," the observer replied. "Spatial anomalies that defy established physics, ancient technological systems that resist standard methods of analysis, species whose biological or psychological makeup renders traditional diplomacy ineffective." Humanity's demonstrated capacity for unorthodox problem-solving would be invaluable in addressing such issues. So we'd be your troubleshooters, Ilara translated. Called in when conventional methods fail. An apt description. Atrix confirmed. With appropriate compensation, of course. Advanced technologies, resource rights, protection for all human colonies, and a voice in council deliberations. Tazverik made a rumbling sound that the translation system rendered as amusement. They will use you as they use us, human. But perhaps your cage will be more comfortable than ours. I cannot accept on behalf of all humanity, Ilara said carefully. This decision would require consultation with Earth's government and the colonial authority. Of course, the observer agreed. Representatives of the council will accompany you to Earth to present our proposal formally. In the meantime, medical assistance and restoration teams will be dispatched to Vega Prime immediately. As the transmissions ended, Ilara sank into her command chair, the adrenaline of the past hours finally catching up to her. Around the command center, her officers and the colony scientists looked equally exhausted but triumphant. Well, Colonel Santos said after a moment, that's not how I expected first contact with a galactic government to go. Dr. Chen pushed her glasses up, a habit when she was thinking deeply. A species evaluation through combat. It's barbaric, but I suppose effective from their perspective. And now we're being offered a job as the galaxy's problem solvers, Ilara mused, because we managed to repurpose scientific equipment into defensive systems. Is that really so surprising? Chen asked. Human history is full of innovations born from necessity, especially during conflicts. Ilara stood and walked to the viewport. Outside, the Ket-Eri ships were already beginning to withdraw, moving back to high orbit as promised. On the ground, medical teams rushed to treat the wounded as the fighting ceased. What do you think Earth will say to their offer? Santos asked, joining her at the window. Ilara watched as the massive crystalline ship of the observer descended slowly toward the colony, presumably bringing the promised medical assistance. I think, she said thoughtfully, that humanity just earned its place among the stars, not through conquest or diplomacy, but by doing what we've always done best, finding solutions.